Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be solving real-world problems involving percents. But before we do, let's review the percent proportion. So percent problems can be solved using the percent proportion, which says the part over the whole is equal to the percent over 100. All right, let's try out the percent proportion in example 1. At a movie theater, 250 movie tickets were sold on Saturday, and the percentage of each type of ticket sold is shown in the table. According to the data in the table, how many adult tickets were sold? So let's identify our percent, our part, and our whole, and then we'll use those numbers to set up our percent proportion. So in this problem, they're asking how many adult tickets were sold. So if we look at our chart, we can see that 72% of the tickets sold were adult tickets. So our percent is 72. We also know our whole because we know a total of 250 tickets were sold. That means for this problem, our unknown value is the part. So when I set up my proportion, it'll be x over 250 is equal to 72 over 100. So I want to look at my proportion here and see if I can easily determine my scale factor. So if I'm looking at this, I can clearly see that to get from 100 to 250, I would have to multiply by 2.5. So we have a scale factor of 2.5. So if I multiply the denominators by 2.5, I can also multiply the numerators by 2.5 to find my missing value. So 72 times 2.5, 2 times 5 is 10, 35, 36, drop a 0, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 7 is 14, so add this up, 8, okay. Now, right now I have 1800, but that is not a logical answer because we know the total number of tickets sold was only 250. That's because we haven't moved our decimal yet. So please note that in this problem, there was one number after the decimal, which means we need to move our decimal in one place. So 180 adult tickets were sold. This is why it's really important when you're solving problems involving percents and decimals, that you ask yourself, is your answer reasonable? Because I guarantee you, if you were taking a multiple choice test, 1800 would have been one of the answers. But 1800 is not a reasonable answer. That's way too many tickets, adult tickets. All right. Example 2. Mr. Martinez has 2 ice chests. He is placing 20 lunches in each chest. Each lunch contains a sandwich, a bag of chips, and a drink. If 55% of these lunches contain a ham sandwich, how many lunches contain ham sandwiches? So again, just like the last problem, we want to identify our percent, our part, and our whole so that we can set up the proportion. Okay, now I know our percent. I know that 55% of the lunches contain a ham sandwich. We can also figure out the whole or the total because we know he had 2 ice chests and each ice chest had 20 lunches in it. So we know there's a total of 40 lunches. Again, on this problem, our unknown is the part. So x over 40 is equal to 55 over 100. So when I'm looking at this, it's not as easy for me to determine what my scale factor is. So sometimes when that happens, ask yourself, can I reduce one of these fractions to a friendlier number? So right away I'm thinking, 55 over 100, those will both divide by 5. I wonder if this will help me have a friendlier number in my fraction. So my new proportion would be x over 40 equals 11 over 20. Oh, now the scale factor is very obvious to me. To get from 20 to 40, all I would have to do is multiply by 2. So if I do the same thing on the top, 11 times 2 is 22. So I knew 22 lunches contain a ham sandwich. "22 lunches contain a ham sandwich." Example 3. Alberto's monthly income is $3,200. That's his total income. Part of Alberto's monthly budget is shown in the table. What percentage of Alberto's income is used to pay for his rent and his groceries? All right, so we want to identify percent, part, whole. Now, this question clearly asked what percentage. So in this problem, that's our unknown, so I'll call it X. All right. I also know the whole because the first sentence of the question said his total monthly income is $3,200. We want to find the part now, and the part is going to be his rent plus his groceries. So his rent was $896 and his groceries was $384. So let's add that up. 6 plus 4 is 10, carry the 1. 10 plus 8 would be 18, carry the 1. 9 plus 3 is 12. So our part is $1,280. All right, now we have everything we need to make a percent proportion. So $1,280 over 3,200 equals X over 100. So to get from 3,200 to 100, we would simply have to divide by 32. That means I can get my top number if I divide it by 32. So 32 into 1,280. All right, so I want to know how many times will 32 go into 128. So I'm going to use a little ratio table over here. So 1 times 32 is 32. If I double that, I know that 2 times 32 would be 64. If I doubled that again, 64 double, ooh, yes, that would be 128. So I know 32 will go into 128 4 times. So 4 times 32 is 128. Subtract and bring down. 30 goes into 0 40 times. So 40% of his income is used for rent and groceries. I'll just abbreviate that. 40% of his income goes to the rent and to groceries. Example 4. Johnson Middle School recorded the number of students who participate in the school's athletic program. They have displayed the percentage of students who participate in the table below. If there are 950 students, then how many students participate in 2 sports? So percent, part, whole. Okay, so in this question, they're asking about how many participate in 2 sports. So the percentage, according to our table for 2 sports, is 28%. I also know the whole because they gave me the total number of students at this school was 950. What we don't know is the part. So x over 950 equals 28 over 100. Now what I'd like you to do is pause this video and press play when you're ready to check your answer. All right, welcome back. All right, hopefully you said that the scale factor here is 9.5. So I'm going to have to multiply my numerator by 9.5. So 28 times 9.5. 8 times 5 is 40. 10, 14. Drop a 0. 9 times 8 is 72. 18 plus 7 would be 25. 0, 6, 6, 2. Now, remember, we cannot have 2,660 students who participate in 2 sports because there are only 950 students in the school. That's because we're working with decimals here, and I have one number after the decimal, so I need to move my decimal in one place, and that would give me 266 students. So 266 students participate in 2 sports. Example 5. There are 225 students at a middle school. On Friday, 135 of those students wore spirit shirts. What percent of the students did not wear spirit shirts on Friday? Pause the video and try this problem on your own. When you're finished, press play to check your answer. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. Percent, part, whole. We know the whole was 225. We do not know the percent, but on the part, you have to be very careful because they're asking for what percentage of the students did not wear spirit shirts. So we need to know how many did not wear their spirit shirt. So that would be 225 minus 135. So 5 minus 5 is 0. 22 minus 13 is 90. So our part is 90. And that's where most students are going to make their mistake on this problem. So 90 over 225 is equal to x over 100. So to get from 225 to 100, we would have to divide by 2.25, which means I'm going to have to take 90 and divide it by 2.25. Now, 90 divided by 2.25. Remember, our divisor has to be a whole number. So I need to move my decimal over 2 places on both of these. So this would be 9,000 divided by 225. Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking 225 and we want to know how many times it will go into 9,000. So I'm going to make a little ratio table here. I want to see first how many times will it go into 900. So 1 times 225 is 225. If I double that, what would I get? 450. If I double that again, oh sweet, that would be 900. So 225 goes into 900 4 times. So 4 times 225 is 900. Subtract and bring down. 225 goes into 0 times. So 40% did not wear the spirit shirt. And that concludes concludes today's lesson, Solving Real World Problems Involving Percent.